parents are from China, so I am Chinese American.
I'm Chinese, and I was born in Shanxi, China, and I'm like 1.5 generation.
My grandparents and parents were born in Taiwan, but I'm ethnically Han Chinese, and I was born and raised in Virginia in the USA.
I'm Indian American and I was born and raised in Virginia.
I'm Chinese American, second generation, and I'm from Ashburn, Virginia.
I am Korean American, and I was born in Seoul, South Korea, and I am a rather odd mix in between first generation and second generation. So I would rather have to say I'm about like a 1.5 generation.
I'm Chinese American. I was born in Jiangsu province, and I was adopted when I was 13 months old and raised in Lynchburg, Virginia.
I'm an ABC, typically known as American-born Chinese. My mother, her mother, immigrated here from Guangzhou, and then my dad was born here.
Chinese American. I was born in the United States in Fairfax County. My parents immigrated from Beijing, China, and that's where my roots came from.
I identify as Korean American, mainly because I was born in Korea, but I immigrated to the United States when I was 5.
So I am Korean American. I'm actually a quarter North because of my grandma, and I came to the United States when I was in 6th grade.
I am American-born Chinese, and I am the second generation.
I'm Filipino American and Chinese American, and I was born in the United States, and I grew up in Northern Virginia.
So I'm a Chinese American. I'm a second generation. My parents are from Vietnam, but then all my ancestors were born in southern China.
I'm Vietnamese American, and I was born in Alexandria, and I grew up in Arlington, Virginia.
I'm a Korean American. I was born in Seoul, Korea, and I moved here and I grew up in Herndon, Virginia.
So I've never really had any personal identity crisis with myself, but I've seen my friends say things like, oh hey, I wish I was white, or classic things like that where they just wish that they fit more into culture just because of what their ethnicity was. And so just seeing that and hearing that from especially more of my younger friends, them being like, oh, I wish I was white, or, you would be way prettier if you were white. I've heard that from guy friends before too. Just hearing that kind of makes me sad because it just shows that people don't accept what they're born with, like their race, and don't understand the privileges that we get by being able to be different and being able to come from a different background and to have different cultural experiences.
I've never actually felt conflicted about my ethnic identity because I was always really proud to be Chinese. I had friends in elementary school who were Chinese too, and it was we spoke to each other in Chinese, and that was like our thing, and it was really fun for us. So having that kind of childhood experience, I guess, definitely helped.
So growing up, I felt kind of embarrassed or almost ashamed of my Chinese culture, my Chinese background. And so when I was little, I would want to separate myself from the Chinese culture, I guess in an attempt to be cool, to fit in with all my white friends.
I was definitely embarrassed about being half Indian when I was younger. A lot of my friends made fun of me because when I told them, I was half Indian, they assumed Native American. There's a lot of stereotypes that go with that, and so they kind of made fun of me for that. But then when they found out I wasn't, they continued to make fun of me.
Coming from Loudoun County, which is a predominantly white area in Ashburn, I would say I never knew what it was to be different up until my first experience was when I was in elementary school, maybe like 1st or 2nd grade, and I had some classmates that would just kind of randomly all of a sudden just kind of like touch my hair, like kind of like pet it or like just feel it, and it was like I found it strange because I've never seen anyone do that, and like of course being 6 or 7, you don't really know what's going on, so I found it a little weird, but they would make comments like, oh my god, it's so like soft and like so straight and like shiny and like etc, and it was very strange for me to think about, and I think that was a moment of clarity for me when I was young, that I realized I was different than the other kids at school.
I was introduced to American culture at a young age, which is when we were still open to new ideas, and I picked up English very rapidly, and I speak English fluently by the time I was in first grade, and I had moved here since when I was about 5 years old or so, which is about when we start kindergarten. And so most of my identities come from, oh, do I identify myself more as a Korean or more as an American? And a lot of people said something along the lines of, well, when you're thinking of what you're trying to say, what language do you think in? Do you think in English or do you think in Korean? And for me personally, it would have to be a mix of both.
Because my parents are first generation Chinese, so they still have Eastern values, while I was taught Western values. And often those conflicts would clash, and I would often argue with my parents.
So I would compare myself, I think, using like standards that the people around me tried to live up to, and so sometimes I think I would fall short just because of the nature of my ethnicity, like how I looked or how I talked, or just like a lot of physical characteristics. I think I compared myself, but other than that, I pretty much considered myself white, so I felt like very removed from being Asian.
Back in like elementary school, a lot of people made fun of me for my ethnicity, or just like, it's like, wow, this kid's like has such chinky eyes, can you see through them? And I'm just like, well, if people are like this, I really don't want to see myself as Asian American, because I just didn't want to deal with it. And I honestly did reject my Asian identity for a long time too.
For me, not so much. I grew up in San Francisco, California, and the population in San Francisco is Chinese or other ethnicities of Asian. And so I never really had a conflict with being Asian. I always was taught to embrace it as
Is when I was in middle school, I had a group of like 3 best friends. They were all white, and one of them asked me one day, she was just like, are you Korean? Like, are you Chinese? Like, are you like black? Are you white? And I was just so confused when she said that, because first of all, I don't even know why she said Chinese, because I'm not Chinese, but I think after she said that, I just thought a lot about like who I am, like what I identify as, like yeah, because it was hard because I never fully felt Korean since I came at such a young age, but I was trying to fit in with my friends back then.
I don't think I ever really had a conflict over my self-identity as an Asian American. I know when I was growing up, I don't really remember what happened, like anything that really happened in elementary school. I just felt very accepted by my friends all along.
So when I was growing up in Loudoun County in Northern Virginia, I felt like when I was like in middle school and in high school, I felt the need to kind of like present myself as more Asian, or like whatever seemed Asian.
People would ask me where I'm from, I would say I'm from Alexandria, Virginia, Arlington, Virginia. But people would not really accept that as an answer because I don't look American. So people would just be like, no, like, where are your parents from? Where is your whole family actually from?
This one time when I was 16, I went to Korea for the first time after a long time. And I actually got kicked out of a cab because I didn't know what to say. All I knew was where I was supposed to go, but I didn't know anything about the courtesies, the formalities, how to say hi, hello, stop, you know? So the cab driver actually kicked me out and said, he basically said, you're Korean, how do you not know your own language? How do you not know the culture? How do you not know about it at all? And I told him, I'm a Korean, I was born in America. Like, what do you want from me? And then he simply said, you're a Korean American. How could you possibly forget of half of what you are? And then from that point, I just kind of started picking up on Korean culture, trying to learn step by step by step. But my parents also realized too that they kind of made a mistake about making me forget completely about Korean culture, but they sort of helped out with like teaching me about the foods, teaching me about the language so I could read and write. And then yeah, from there I just kind of learned about the culture, and I like it. I'm happy to be a Korean American.
Back lot of like racism that I had to deal with. When people call me slurs like chink, made fun of me for whatever reason they chose. That was one of the problems I had to face. Fortunately, it disappeared. But one of the things I always felt as like an Asian American was that you're always somewhat seen as like an outsider because of your culture, because you came from, you know, like for me, I literally came from the other side of the world. Well, my family came from the other side of the world, and it also seems like it's harder to me for like sometimes to fit in because I feel like I always feel different from other people.
So I've had a lot of people try to push the model minority myth on me. So they would say, oh, you only, passed this test, did well because you're Asian. And that, discredited all the hard work I put into studying for the class.
That happened to me quite often was when I told people that I was Korean, they'd be like, oh, are you from North or South? And I would just be like, well, I'm not really sure how to respond to that. And at a third point, I just got tired of answering the question because it would just come up so often. And even though they might not think of it as racism in a way, and it kind of isn't, but it kind of is at the same time, just because it shows like their lack of sort of understanding, I guess, towards like ethnicity and or culture.
Growing up in San Francisco, I didn't have that many stereotypical issues that people deal with racism, but when I came out to the East Coast, there was less Asian population, and therefore I had a harder time adjusting to some things, or some people giving me a harder time thinking that I was from China just because I look a certain way. Or even actually in Far East, when I want to tell them I'm American, or they can even tell I'm not from Asia right away, and sometimes that can be an issue when they don't see me as a equal.
When I started doing sports in middle school, and I played soccer, mostly in basketball, and it never bothered me, but I noticed that I was always like the minority on the team. Like everyone was white because like where I live is from a predominantly white area, but it definitely wasn't until high school when it kind of like somewhat affected me in the sense of I ran cross country, I played soccer for the high school team, I was even on the basketball team my freshman year, and I noticed in the pictures like I was the only minority on the team, and I think for me it's like a stereotypical like Asian person. They don't do sports, like they're very studious, they're not athletic, and I basically defied that, and I was the opposite. Like I did almost like most sports, like almost every season in high school, and like I thankfully haven't had anybody ever say anything like racist or like stereotypical to me before, but like sometimes I feel like in the back of my mind they might have made like side comments or like backhanded comments that I kind of either brushed off without really knowing what they were saying to me, or like they talked behind my back. Obviously I wouldn't have known what they would have said, but I don't know, it just made me feel more aware of it being on a sports team.
You're an Asian American for example, I'm a Korean American. When I go to Korea, I do receive a form of, you can sort of feel it also in terms of just how they act towards you and everything, and sometimes they also try to scam you, of course, and so you just have that aspect, and also the sort of feeling that you aren't one of them, if that makes sense, if I was to go to Korea. However, if Korean Americans or Asian Americans were to go to America and, well, I guess hang with white people, just to be very just blunt about it, then it's also the same feeling of you're not one of us. So, you also have that sort of feeling, that sort of vibe from those type of people. So growing up, I could say that I definitely have faced both sides before, and it would start, like an example that I can give about, we already know about the cap, but in America, a big thing would be on track and just the sports teams in my high school, because from there it's sort of, there's a stereotype that Asians, we're nerdy, we don't really do that, we don't really do so well in athletics. So when football comes around or when track comes around, there's just a lot of, I guess, hate you can get on the team. And so a lot of underestimation. Like they just don't think that you can perform as well as you really can, you know, and that can really get on your nerves sometimes, you know, especially if you're playing football and you're 1v1ing someone. You're supposed to guard them and they're just scoffing at you, or they're just talking to the sidelines to their buddies, telling them how they're probably gonna smoke you, you know. So it's definitely this. There's a lot of stereotypes that Asian Americans get in America.
But eventually you will find people that will understand you, because there's so many people, so many Asian Americans who have experienced whitewashing themselves and are starting to now attempt to embrace their cultural heritage more. And so they're out there, and just go out and find them and spend some time with them and just keep learning.
And it's something that everyone should learn to embrace who they are, because your ethnicity doesn't change. It's who you're born as, and I think it's really important for everyone to embrace who they are, and just learning to love yourself in that sense.
I definitely embraced the Indian culture more. I learned a lot more about it, so then when people came up to me with these stereotypes or had questions, I was able to either correct them or answer the questions that they had. So, and in a way, I definitely got a lot more understanding responses, and as I grew up, I guess people just became more knowledgeable.
Just by accepting that I am who I am, and that where you're born or where you come from doesn't define you as a person. It's how you act, like what you do towards other people, and that's just sort of what I embraced and sort of what I accepted. Just because I wasn't born in the country doesn't make me any less of an American, and just because my skin tone might look different or my facial structure might look different from others doesn't make me any less of a human being than other people.
You find people that are similar to you, or even not, and you embrace their curiosity or their negativity, and you just teach them what your culture is about and how you're different and what that makes you.
Like my fellow peers, not letting them determine who I get to be, because the only person that gets to determine who you are is you. And if you let other people influence the way you act, the way you choose to be, the way you identify yourself, then you're not determining your own life for yourself. And we only get one life to live, and we're the people that get to determine that for ourselves.
So just it as I grew older, just accepted my culture and my roots, even though lots of people still kind of generalize who I am and still stereotyping like my identity, it's myself.
Yes, people will, I guess, label you in terms of what you are, but when it all comes down to it, it really depends on what you do, because these people have never seen Asians before. In their mind up to that point, when I met them, they thought that Asians were just all the same. They look the same, they can't speak English, and they aren't good at athletics, and they're very studious. But then I sort of just showed them that, hey, I'm different. So I just feel like eventually these people who have these prior assumptions from stereotypes, they just have to meet an Asian, and then they'll just see through overtime. Just more exposure leads to more knowledge.
Take all the values from the two different cultures, where my parents really instilled like hardworking and just working for it and reaching your dreams, I guess. That's really cliche, and the values of just being American and how I grew up in the society, and like being able to meld those two type of things together.
I think the best part is kind of being like two people in one, in a sense. Like at home, we speak Korean, mainly eat Korean food and everything. And when I go outside, I just eat whatever I want and like speak English. But when like my friends come over, they get to see kind of like the Korean part too. I don't know. I think it's like cool to have it like all mixed together. Also like the culture with the food. I really am glad to have like an access to all different types of food.
I feel like I became part of this third group that neither of them have, and I met other people who felt the same way, and I feel like I finally have a place where I belong.
The best part of being Asian American is 100% food. That's it. That's all I have to say. It's just food.
Seeing my roots and knowing where I came from, and embracing my heritage, and still being able to share that culture and the traditions with future generations, you know, my children, my friends, people, even just strangers that are curious. And I think that's the best part about being Asian American.
It's definitely food, being able to like experience like all these different types of foods, especially being like Filipino and Chinese. It's quite a great variety of food, and it's also really nice to be able to learn more about like my histories, as like the histories of like the Philippines and of China and of the United States.
So I think the best thing about being Asian American is getting pretty much the best of both worlds. So like from my Asian side, I personally speak Cantonese with my family, and my mom's entire side of the family is still in Hong Kong. So getting a chance to even visit a city that's like halfway across the world is pretty cool. And seeing her family and like where she grew up and everything is like always has been breathtaking the last time I went.
I guess the great thing about being a Vietnamese American is just that I have like two worlds at once. There's this one world with my family and its roots where I can just learn about Vietnamese culture and learn about its language and history. But at the same time, I have my American side, which I've grown up with, learn about the American history and all its values.
Korean barbecue, K-drama, K-pop. Other than that, I guess like growing up, since I was born in Korea, you know, growing up with two different cultures, I was able to experience, you know, different things, and now I get to like look at things in different point of view.
Love being able to be part of Chinese culture and learn about that part and live part of my lifestyle kind of in Chinese and American at the same time.
And just watching my family just come from these like sort of roots was probably the most enjoyable thing to me, because it really gives my Asian American identity like something unique, something other people don't have.
The fact that you don't have to pick, oh, I'm a Korean, oh, I'm an American, oh, I need to devote myself to one culture or one or the other, basically making that decision and going with it. So I'm just happy that as a Korean American, I can just have both cultures. Even though they're on the other sides of the world, I can just be both Korean and both American, and have the two cultures and just put them together.
My name is Grace Gang and I'm Chinese American.
My name is Junyu and I'm Chinese American.
I'm Alec Fong. In Chinese, that's Kong Sai Char. And I am Chinese American.
My name is Shannon Su, and I'm Chinese and Taiwanese American.
Hi, my name is Sarah Tran. My Mandarin name is Shen Shaoqi, and then my Cantonese name is Sun Hyun Kang.
My name is Marina Napik, and I'm Indian American.
My name is Leo Ya. 제 이름은 여서구입니다, and I am a Korean American.
My name is Sarah Fraser and my Chinese name is Hua Qian and I'm Chinese American.
My name is Amanda Chow, and I'm Chinese American.
I'm Ju Lee, and in Korean it's Lee Ju-yeon, and I am Korean American.
I'm Julian Park. My Korean name is Park Ju-young, and I'm Korean American.
I'm Kevin Wang, and my Chinese name is Wang Xiaoyao, and I am Chinese American.
Hi, my name is James Singh, and my Chinese name is Zhang Ziyan.
My name is Audine Bernales, and I'm Filipino and Chinese American.
I'm Kan Xiao Mai, and I'm Vietnamese American.
My name is Joshua Lee. My Korean name is Lee Hyun-dong, and I'm a Korean American.